Greetings, everyone. Thank you for joining me here today. Today, I want to take a look at probably one of the most widely published adventure modules ever written of all the history of D&D or any supporting products, as the case may be. This particular one right here, B2 Keep on the Borderlands. This is a classic module. It's a great module. If you've ever played D&D, just about any edition, I would say that odds are pretty good you started here. And even if you didn't start here, maybe your dungeon master had a low-level adventure planned or wanted to take characters from first on up through higher levels. You may have gone through this particular one right here. It's a great module. It was first published back in 1979 and supplanted B1 In Search of the Unknown by Mike Carr as the included adventure with first the J. Eric Holmes version of basic D&D, and then later the sets edited by Dave Cook, Tom Moldvay, and then even later Frank Mentzer. It's really a classic of its time. It's even a classic today. When I play tested 5th edition or D&D Next, whatever they're calling it, there was a PDF of B2 included in the playtest material with stats and so forth changed to fit the new rule paradigm, but otherwise the same, which I thought it was really awesome. It's one of those things that kind of let me know that they were sort of hearkening back a little bit. They had a little touch of nostalgia themselves. But it's a fantastic module. It's kind of an evergreen thing. It's been around forever. There have been some printing differences with it over the years, though, believe it or not. This particular copy I've got here, and I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see that. I'll try and get a picture of it. Says it can be used with AD&D with a few changes, which is pretty awesome. Even the copies that don't say that, actually, the changes are very, 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 very small that you have to make B2 work with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, which is, again, pretty awesome if you want to launch an AD&D campaign using the classic B2. It's very, very easy to do. I would say that the changes are minimal, next to none. Slight hit point adjustments, slight class adjustments for a few things here and there, but it's nothing, you don't have to spend hours and hours and hours grinding through notes. Okay, I need to change this and I need to change that. Nope, a 10-foot pit still does 1d6 damage, and, the ogre still has 4 hit dice. It's just very, very easy to convert. Now, there were some differences, though, between the version that came out for Holmes Basic Dungeons and Dragons and then later the Tom Moldvay and Frank Mentzer and so on versions of Dungeons and Dragons, actually structurally within the book itself. So, yeah, we'll take a look at that real quick. So yeah, just take a look here. First of all, there are some art differences.
So the first artwork difference we come to here is on page 9 in both modules. On the left is the earlier illustration in the first print that was released for Holmes Basic. And what we can see is on the right panel, we see an illustration by David S. LaForce. You see an adventurer or a traveler waiting to enter the keep, and he's looking up off to the left, and you can see a guard in a tower calling down to him. The later version is altered. You can see the panel is moved up to the right, and the top of the tower is completely deleted, and the traveler is just staring off into space. Maybe he's wondering where his buddy in the tower, or indeed the rest of the tower, went to. Alright then, and the second major art change here. Now I flip-flopped it, so the new version is on the right. This is page 20, and the old version, the new version is on the left, and the old version is on the right. we have an illustration of a Minotaur by Bill Willingham. Very dynamic, very tough, looking ready to put the smackdown on some characters. On the right, it's a Errol Otis illustration of a Minotaur. He's a little more sedate. He's having a little bit of original recipe there, just enjoying a light snack, waiting for some adventurers to walk in and join him for dinner, whatever that might entail. And as mentioned in the text, you can see there's the decorative pattern of skulls down on the floor just to the right in the illustration. As to which one of those two is better, I like them both. I like the Errol Otis one a bit more. Maybe that's nostalgia speaking, I don't know. And we'll check out one more art difference here. And this is towards the back of the book. I don't have the exact page number in front of me. This is in the first print. And we have a positively cartoony looking Sturge illustration. Yeah, he looks like something right out of a Disney cartoon with his little cherubic grin on his face, getting ready to snuggle up to a character and drain them of 1 to 4 hit points worth of blood. Certain death for some low-level characters. Like I said, kind of Disney-like, sort of cartoony looking there.
Now, speaking for myself, that version or rather, I should say, this version is the version that I got to play with, and this was actually the first D&D book that I ever had. I don't mean module. I mean, this was it. When I was young, I thought this was all you needed. It said special introductory module right there. So I thought, oh, okay, well, everything I need is right here in this book. And I was darn close. I was darn close. If you look, here's a couple of pages.
Okay, and right here we have the 2 pages that made it possible for me to just use B2 as the only D&D book that I had or felt like I needed, at least for a little while. On these 2 pages here, you can see as we flip through them, on the first page we have the first 3 levels of magic user spells, and we have the first 2 levels of clerical spells. In the middle of the table we have the all-important saving throw chart for men, low-level monsters, characters, fighters, magic users, thieves, clerics. This was back when D&D still had the division, early versions of D&D still had the division between a character as class and a race as class. So there's a separate listing for dwarves and halflings, aside from the other classes you see there. And then on the bottom of that page, of course, we have a extensive list of equipment costs, weapons, armor, that sort of thing. And then on the second page, we have a wandering monster table that's pretty extensive. That covers the first 3 levels of a dungeon. So whether you're using the Caves of Chaos or whether you're using the something homegrown, you've got an easy reference wandering table there. Now, not all of these monsters were in the module, so I just kind of had to make that stuff up as I went along, too, when I did use them. The second chart on that page is, of course, the clerics versus undead table. So when turning undead, there was a handy chart. Your first level clerics couldn't really do all that much, and that's still true today, of course, and was true with advanced D&D. So you had, a second level cleric could maybe deal with the white in the Temple of Evil Chaos, but otherwise you were out of luck. Most importantly, you had the die roll for a character to hit by opponent's armor class. So this was the attack table right here in the middle of the page. You've got normal men, so if you've got NPCs, hirelings, that sort of thing, they've got a chart. And then first through 3rd level characters, it's all kind of concatenated. It doesn't make a difference between magic users, thieves, clerics, what have you. That's just the table they used, and that was key. That right there made me able to use the book by itself. And same degree of importance, right underneath it, monsters versus characters. Hit dice all the way up to 11. If you wanted to be that mean and throw 11 hit dice monsters at a 1st through 3rd level party, you had the means to figure out what would happen when when they went after characters of a given armor class. So yeah, those 2 pages right there, key stuff that made it possible to, like I said, at least for me, to use the books, or the book rather, by itself. If you weren't doing that, if you actually had a rule book with B2, this was a handy thing to have. You didn't have to go diving for the rule book for some key stuff.
Those 2 pages actually detail the information you need to play Dungeons and Dragons. About 50% of it. It's the 2 hit charts, it's spell descriptions, it's equipment costs, it's it's a lot of the key information. And when you take it with the first 4 or 5 pages of the module and the last 4 or 5 pages of the module, outside of the considered information for the adventure itself, it really and truly is an introductory instructional module on how to play D&D. If they'd gone a little bit further with the production and put maybe 5 pages worth of actual rules for D&D, this would be everything you'd need to play a game of D&D right here. I can understand them not doing that. Then you'd have a $5 product that supplanted a $10 box set or a $7 standalone rule book. So yeah, I definitely get why they didn't do that. But when I played D&D for the first time, again, that was the only rule book that I had, was just in there. I made everything else up myself. I didn't exactly know how characters advance from level to level. In the case of combat, I just said the characters always attacked first, and then the monsters went, and then back and forth until both sides were wiped out. So I guess you could say I just made up some stuff that seemed to make sense. Some of the other quirks, character generation. The book explains their strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, constitution, charisma. I didn't really grasp that was a 3d6 roll, but the numbers fell between 3 and 18. I knew that. So I thought, well, I've got this set of dice. The 20-sider has as much as 18 and as little as 3. So when we made characters up for that first game, we just rolled a d20 for each one of those things, and we ignored 1s, 2s, 19s, and 20s. So the curve was fairly flat. It tended not to bunch around the middle a whole lot, not as much as it does with 3d6. The bell curve was a little bit shallower, I think. So yeah, we did do that, but I won't go so far as to say we did it wrong, because again, we made stuff up, and it was fun and it was good. So again, B2 almost has everything you need to play D&D. Now, in this day and age, you can go online and you can download Swords and Wizardry, White Box, Osric. You can get PDFs of just about any rule set you want from dndclassics.com. Or you can go on Amazon or eBay and buy rules for next to nothing for older versions of D&D, depending. If you have a taste to play original D&D, it's going to be quite more expensive. But the point is, it's a lot easier now to absorb a set of basic rules. So saying, hey, this module has almost everything you need to play D&D in it is a little redundant. But at the time, it was extremely helpful. It was a great module to have as a beginner in D&D, and it was just sheer random chance that when I was first drawn into D&D, when I said, hey, that looks like a cool thing that I really want to play, that was the module that I chose. It said introductory. I was just learning. It said it was for low-level characters. The starting characters would certainly be low level, and I just loved that art right there. I mean, that says it all, doesn't it? Really, you got adventurers going after some And for the longest time, I thought those were orcs. Those are in fact hobgoblins. And then on the back, just as described in the front of the module, you've got characters arriving at sunset at the titular keep. Now, Keep on the Borderlands was never set in a specific campaign world. Gary mentions the known world, the edge of civilization, that sort of thing. But initially, the whole campaign world was yours, the dungeon master, to create and build and have just your whole canvas. You could start with this module and then just work out from there. Later, in later editions of basic D&D, they included sort of a default campaign setting called the known world. Mystara, I think, is what it was later called. And the module was firmly placed in there. It was given a hex assignment, and you could go there, and there was the keep, and there were the caves of chaos, and all the monsters that lived in there, and it was very specific. Now, there was a sequel to this called Return to the Keep on the Borderlands that was released in 1999 as part of the 25th anniversary of Dungeons & Dragons, which actually stuck the module in Greyhawk, which is kind of a cool thing. I'm a fan of Greyhawk. That's where I set most of my campaigns. So that was pretty cool. It was for 2nd edition Advanced D&D. I think by that point, basic D&D, or as TSR was calling it at that point, just Dungeons and Dragons, was fairly moribund, and they were starting to push Greyhawk again. So yeah, they set it in 2nd edition AD&D rule set in Greyhawk. They named a lot of the NPCs that don't have names, and this was supposed to be decades later after the initial events. So there were some things that changed. It wasn't just like, okay, well, we'll slap a 25th anniversary logo on it and then say it's in Greyhawk and there you go. No, there were definitely some things that changed. As far as the original history of the module, kind of going back to that a little bit, I had the opportunity to ask Gary once if the Temple of Evil Chaos, sort of the headquarters, the nexus of evil doing in the Caves of Chaos, was a specific reference to any, like the Elder Elemental God or the or Tharizdun or anything like that. And again, he said that was not the case. That it was just kind of I think the phrase he used was whole cloth creation, just specifically for the module as he wrote it in a few weeks in '79 to slip into the basic sets. So there, basically, you have it. You've got Keep on the Borderlands. It's a fantastic introductory module. I can't recommend it enough. If you've got a group of younger players and you're introducing them to kind of the world of low or medium fantasy that Dungeons and Dragons or Advanced Dungeons and Dragons can be, it's a great place to start, especially if they've never played it before. I mean, my little 11-year-old mind was pretty blown at the idea of walking into a cave and there's a bunch of monsters with treasure and that sort of thing. I think they'll enjoy it. If you're looking for a copy, you can get one on D&D Classics. I've linked that down straight to that in the description below. You can find copies of it on Amazon, on eBay. You could probably go into a used bookstore somewhere in your town and find admittedly fairly beaten up copy, but you can get it. It was packaged in its original form with the Silver Anniversary boxed set that TSR released again back in 1999. That's going to be prohibitively expensive, particularly if it's the whole set together. There are some copies, someone with loud pipes going by there. There are some copies that exist outside of that set that originally came with the set. And again, they're still really expensive. People asking 15, 20, $30 for those. Don't pay that. This module is ultra common. It's as common as dirt. You really shouldn't have to pay more than a few dollars plus shipping. If somebody puts, oh, rare, out of print, old school classic module, just pass it by. It doesn't matter which version you get. If you liked the artwork from the first version, as I showed you in the slideshow, it may be a little more difficult to find than the more common versions. But ultimately, there's just no difference between them, other than those few illustrations. I like my copy, which is like I said, it's the earlier one for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Not the least of which reason is I have Gary's autograph in it. Little showing off a little bit there, but yeah, it's real easy to find. Grab yourself a PDF of it, grab yourself a physical copy, or get a PDF and print it out, and run some Keep on the Borderlands soon. I think it's great. I think you'll think it's great, and yeah, give it a go. Take it easy, and I will see y'all later.